Red. Okay. So now,
Alright, so, like before, can you say your name and your age or birthday?
Okay. My name is Roberta Maloney. I was born on August 2nd, 1940. I'm 76 years old.
Alright. So the first topic and the main topic that you like to talk about, as far as I could tell, was Dave, your husband. And I was actually just going to let you talk about him, the college years, or how you met him.
Okay. Hope I can do this. Dave and I met when we were in 6th grade. We went to a Catholic school in which the boys and the girls always sat on opposite sides of the room. But this particular nun in 6th grade was very forward-thinking, and she put a row of boys, a row of girls, a row of boys, and a row of girls. And Dave sat right next to me. So that's how I met him. And we managed to hang on together through the rest of grade school, through high school. He went to college, I went to work, and we lasted through college. And when he finally graduated in 1963, we married the week after he graduated. He was not much of a student. He saw no reason to go to school. He saw no reason to study. The only thing he cared about was basketball. And he did some very clever things to get out of school and go to the gym and work out playing basketball. And of course, it almost got him expelled, but we all just thought, oh, he's wasting so much of his time. But he played all through high school. And when he was finished high school, neither his family nor mine had the resources to send us to college. In those days, they didn't have all the loans and grants that are available today. So I went to work, but he, because of his basketball, got a scholarship to college. And he went to a small school in in Emmitsburg, Maryland, called Mount St. Mary's. And it's a very small school, 800 men, all boys. And he played there in his junior year. His team won the national championship, the NCAA Small Schools Championship. So that was a big deal for them, and they just loved it. And he had one game in which he scored 52 points all by himself. And that was before the three-point shot. So that's a lot of baskets, but that was his life, and he made a good living. He made a good thing out of it. When he graduated, he had the opportunity to move to a small town in central Pennsylvania called Shamokin and become the head basketball coach at that school. So we lived in Shamokin for 12 years. He was head basketball coach there, had a very successful time, and was invited to come to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania and become the head basketball coach at Carnegie Mellon University. He did that for 8 years. So after 20 years of coaching basketball, he had a really unpleasant AD at Carnegie Mellon, and he came home one day and said to me, "Okay, that's it, I'm finished with basketball." Now, I just looked at him and I said, "Well, what else do you know how to do?" And he said, "Well, I'm not sure, but I'll think of something." Now, here we are with a house and a mortgage and 2 small children, and he's going to think of something. But what he did, he stayed at the university. The president invited him to stay and wanted him to become involved with the alumni program. So he did that. He went from alumni into fundraising. He eventually became vice president for development at Carnegie Mellon University. And after we had been in Pittsburgh for 18 years, the president retired. And the new president came in, and of course you can never win enough basketball games, and you can never raise enough money. So he and Dave were not able to develop a good working relationship. So the president, who was out here at University of Oklahoma, used to be the provost at Carnegie Mellon, and he and Dave had worked together there. So he invited Dave to come out. They needed a fundraiser at the Health Sciences Center. So that's what brought us to Oklahoma. We came out here to work. He came out to work at the Health Sciences Center in fundraising. And after he was here a little bit, the president retired and President Boren came in and became president. And of course, again, the vice president for development wasn't good enough. So he decided he needed a new person. He spoke to Dave, he invited him to come out and consider becoming vice president at the University of Oklahoma. And Dave said to me, "Oh, I really don't want to do this." And I said, "Well, then just tell him you don't want to do it. Tell him you like it at the Health Sciences Center and just stay there." He said, "Well, Roberta, I don't know the man very well, but I do know one thing. You're either on his team or I can start looking for another job." And I said, "Oh, no, don't worry about a thing, honey. You go down and have a good time in Norman, and I'll stay here." We had settled in Oklahoma City. So we stayed here, and he took the job as vice president at the University in Norman and had a very good career there, too. So there it is, my whole life with David.
Not your whole life, because the second subject I actually remember was your 5-year anniversary tradition, which is really cute. You told me specifically about Tahiti. I was wondering if you want to tell me that story again, or if there are any other ones that you remember most.
Well, they were all very special. The 25th anniversary was at Hawaii. We went there for our 25th. And neither of us had ever been there before. So that
Can
was.
you say it again, but like rephrase the
Oh,
question?
and I'm not repeating the questions. I'm sorry.
No, it was just one question
All right.
before.
Yes, we did have a tradition of going on special trips on our 5-year anniversaries, and the first one that was really, really special, long distance, was Hawaii for our 25th wedding anniversary. It was a 2-week trip, which was unusual. We usually could only do one. But because we were going so far, we decided to expand it. And we just had a wonderful time. We saw the beautiful memorial there for the ship that was sunk in the water at Pearl Harbor. We traveled to 4 different islands and spent 2 weeks there having just a great time. David was a beach person. He loved to go anywhere where there was sun and sand and water, and so many of our trips were to beach places. But that was a very lovely trip, and we had a good time.
If you want, do you want to tell another story about that, or do you want to move on to the next subject?
Another 5th anniversary trip?
If you want. Just breaking it up so I don't forget like last time. Okay, so the next one would be your daughters, one of them, your eldest, Denise. I remember 2 stories you told me about her. One was her telling you that she wanted to study equine stud farm management, and then the other was her deciding she wants to go into sales.
You want me to repeat that? All right, the story of my older daughter and what she decided she wanted to do after high school graduation. Denise was always an animal person. From the time she was a little girl, she could just, all she cared about was animals, horses. She just lived for them. After the end of her high school program, she came home one day and announced that she wanted to go to college to study equine stud farm management. And I said, "Denise, come on. There is no such thing as a degree in equine stud farm management." And she said, "Oh, yes, there is. I found a school in Ohio named Lake Erie College for Women, and they have a program in equine stud farm management. It's a 4-year program, and you come out with your degree." Well, my daughter Denise was very, very bright. She was an excellent student, but she only excelled at things that she wanted to do. If it was something I thought was a good idea, forget it. So Dave and I talked about it and agreed if she was going to be successful in college, it should be doing something she wanted to do, not what we wanted her to do. So we agreed, and she went to Lake Erie College for Women, went into the program and never looked back, never once talked about not finishing her degree, never talked once about not doing it. In her senior year, she traveled to England, and she spent a semester studying in England on a stud farm. So she had actual working experience with the program. So everything was fine. Of course, our friends all thought we were a little goofy, paying all that money for our daughter to go to college to study something like that. But anyway, she did well in it. Came home. We went up to Lake Erie for her graduation. And after it was all over, she met us outside the auditorium and said, well, I don't think I'm going to do it. I mean, you don't think you're going to do what? She said, well, I don't think I want to work with the horses. And he said, well, come on. That's what you studied for 4 years. It's all you ever wanted to do. No, I learned over in England 2 things. Number 1, there is no advantage to having a degree in this field. And number 2, it is an area in which you really need a lot of brute strength. And she's about the same size I am, so she was not a big, husky, strong person. And she said, I just don't think it would work for me. So of course, that's just dandy. What do you do when you're not going to work in your field? She said, well, I've decided I'd like to make money. I said, oh, that's delightful. How does one make money with an equine stud farm management degree? She said, well, I think there's money in sales, and that's what I'm going to concentrate on, getting into sales. So she started out selling things over the phone for computer parts, and then she got into recruiting for a private school for post-high school students to go there. And then eventually she had an appointment with a pharmaceutical firm that had a line of products for horses, for animals. And they were interviewing for a sales representative in that field. And the strangest thing is, the thing that made her an excellent candidate for that job was her degree. Because in doing her program, she had learned all about their products. She had used their products. And she was very familiar with everything that it did. So she got the job. And she started working for them, visiting out on the farms, visiting veterinarians, going with the vet out to the farmer, being there, helping with the delivery of animals. I mean, she was just in heaven. She loved it. She was very successful, and she finally started to make some good money. But as time went on, she decided that she wanted to move up in the world, so she got into management, and then she got into other fields, and was very, very successful throughout her whole career. And at one point in time, she had to go to the Social Security office and get her lifetime earnings. Now, this was maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And she, in her lifetime, had earned over $1 million, which was a whole lot more than I ever earned. So this strange degree was responsible for her getting a move into a field. It was just her place to be. So that's her story.
And then your other daughter, personally my favorite because I relate to her the most.
Okay.
Kelly. Yes.
Okay, so you want to hear about Kelly when she went to college?
I actually remember 2 of her stories.
Okay.
Both of them have 2, and I really liked both of them. One was the very ironic, I will never, ever become a teacher.
Right.
And then getting recognized at university.
Yes, they're 2 of my favorite stories about Kelly too. All right, I want to tell you about my younger daughter, Kelly, and what happened with her when she got finished high school and got into college. Kelly was the exact opposite of Denise in that she struggled in school. She worked hard, she did okay, but she was not an A student like Denise was. She would come home sometimes in tears because she had had a test and she had studied all night for it and she got a C, and her best friend didn't ever open a book and she got an A, and she'd just be so frustrated with that. And I would try to tell her, Kelly, if C is the best you can do, that's fine. You're doing great. Don't worry about it. It's a passing grade. That's what you're interested in. So she graduated from high school, and we found do you want me to talk about how she went to school first? I'll talk about how she got to the school. When she got finished in high school, we both agreed that Carnegie Mellon University was not meant for Kelly, that she would have been eaten alive there. We knew she needed a small school where she could get help when she needed it. She was never afraid to ask for help, but she had to be somewhere where she could get it. So her dad said to her, Kelly, I went to Mount St. Mary's, as you know, and when I was there it was all men, but now it is co-ed. And he said, I think it would be a wonderful place for you. It's just the right size. You have a good experience there. She said, yes, Dad, I understand, and I really understand, but I think if I went there, I would have this terrible pressure to be Dave Maloney's daughter, because the coach who coached you is still there, a lot of the administrative people are still there, and they know you, so they would be looking at me saying, Coach Maloney's daughter, and I'd have this terrible image to live up to, and I don't think I could handle that. So we took her to, found a school north of Pittsburgh called Westminster College. She went there, and we took her up the first day of school, and she got her all settled in her room, left and went back to Pittsburgh, and later on in the day, the phone rang, and it was Kelly. She said, hi, Mom. I said, hi, how's it going? She said, oh, well, I have to tell you what happened. I said, what? She said, well, my roommate and I decided to walk across campus, and we did. And as we were going along, a man came toward us. And he said, hi, girls, are you freshmen this year? And she said, yes. And he said, well, that's great. Where are you from? And she said, well, I'm from Pittsburgh. Oh, that's wonderful. He said, what's your name? She said, well, my name is Kelly Maloney. And he looked at her and he said, not Dave Maloney's daughter. And she went, oh, Mom, could you believe the first person I meet on campus says Dave Maloney's daughter? It turned out he was the basketball coach. My husband was the coach at Carnegie Mellon, and they played each other. So anyway, that was fine. That was the only time that happened. So her freshman year, she went in undeclared. She did not know what she wanted to do with her life. Unlike Denise, who knew exactly what she wanted, Kelly didn't have a clue. So she went undeclared first year. Second year, she goes back in her sophomore year, and they told her, Kelly, you have to declare a major. You cannot spend another year here undeclared. So she didn't know what to do, so she called me, and she said, Mom, okay, they're making me declare a major, but I want you to know, and I have decided to declare for elementary education. Now, I was a teacher, and Dave was a teacher. So she said, I'm going to declare for elementary education, but I want you to know I will not teach. I am never going to teach. I said, Kelly, you don't have to teach. You do whatever you want to do. So she went on to elementary education. She spent the rest of her career in college doing that. She graduated with her degree in elementary education. And she taught 15 years, third grade elementary education. And she was wonderful because she struggled so to become a student. She was very attentive to the students in her class. She knew they all couldn't learn at the same level at the same time. So she developed programs for the better students, programs for the poorer students, and her children really were successful. So she taught for third grade for 15 years. Then she moved to Oklahoma, and she was hired at the university to work in their education college and teach teachers how to become teachers. So this student who was never going to teach spent her whole life teaching, and she's doing a very nice job with it.
All right. And then my last one, which isn't as long as the others, but favorite thing that made me realize something, was your story about when you graduated from your college and Dave's part of that.
All right. Okay, this is to tell you about my experience with college. Now, I've told you about my husband's and both of my daughters. Now I'll tell you about me. As I had said earlier, neither Dave's family nor mine had the finances to send us to college. So when I got finished in high school, I went to work. And in those days, it was okay to be a secretary. It was not considered demeaning to be a secretary. Actually, it was kind of nice. And I had studied shorthand and typing and all of those things in high school, so I was prepared to go out and work as a secretary, which I did. And time went on. Dave and I married after he graduated from college. We moved to Shamokin, as I told you, to where he was coaching basketball. And at that time, the schools didn't have the night programs and the part-time programs that they have today. You had to be a full-time student to get a degree. But there was a school in a little town not far from Shamokin called Bloomsburg, and they started a program of part-time education where you could go take 3-hour classes a couple days a week and do it. But the key was that in order to enroll in that, you had to be employed. Well, at this point in time, I was working as a secretary, and I was expecting Denise. So I came home and I told Dave about this Bloomsburg thing, and he said, well, enroll, go ahead, get into it. And I said, well, what about the baby? And he said, well, just get started and we'll take it from there. So I enrolled and I started in school, and I took one class during the week and one class on Saturday, 2 classes a semester. Denise came along and I went ahead. Dave made arrangements that he could be home when I was in school. And this went on for years, just two classes a semester or every semester. Eventually Dave finished at, as I told you, in Shamokin, and we moved to Pittsburgh. And I still had not finished my program. So when I got to Pittsburgh, I looked into schools there, and I found a school that would accept all my credits from Bloomsburg and allow me to continue. And the thing I always wanted to do in my life was to teach. I always wanted to teach. So I enrolled in business education because that was my field of experience, and I thought that's something I can bring my work experience to the best advantage teaching. So I went to Robert Morris College in Pittsburgh, and I went there for a number of years. And finally, eventually, I got finished, and I was going to actually graduate. And I was very excited. So Dave said to me when it was coming up, he said, all right, Roberta, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a cap and a gown and attend graduation and receive your degree. I said, Dave, come on. I don't know anybody in school. I don't have a class. I have no friends. Why would I do that? He said, you have worked for 14 years to get your degree. I want it to be a special day. I want you to accept your degree in person. So I said, okay. So he talked me into it. And the graduation was going to be outdoors. It was a small school. So I was out sitting with the class, and my name was called. And when your name was called, you actually went up and accepted your degree. So I got up and I started walking up toward the stage, and all of a sudden in my peripheral vision, I saw my 2 daughters, Denise and Kelly. And they were standing there, jumping up and down, going, yay, Mom, yay, Mom. And I was so excited because I thought, you know, you spend your whole life cheering for your children. When did they ever cheer for you? Never. And there they were. And that has been one of the happiest moments of my life. And I owe it all to Dave. He made some great decisions throughout our life, and that was one of the best.
Yeah, we have 3. Did you get all your questions asked?
I have the ones I wrote down here. Because they wanted to ask you a few questions on their own too.
Now these I was ready for because I've done it before. You don't get even
Oh, we
any.
can actually read you the question in advance if you want to think about your answer. We'll give you a few minutes to think about it, and then you can actually say it in front of the camera if you would like to. But
Okay, let's give it a shot, see how we do.
Did you get quite a bit whenever you had?
oh my God, I got you behind you.
Okay. Then I think
But now we get to ask a couple of our own questions.
Okay, I'll let you handle the audio because I don't know what's happening. Yeah, let me see if there's something back here. It's peaking for some reason. Can you just say something like us?
1, 2, 3.